a scion of many worlds. "So what is this?" Horace asks, as he takes a sniff at whatever is on the table. "Something you're going to need garlic butter for?" Emmanuel asks in return as he brings another huge platter of it. It resembles lobster tails, but instead of the fins on the back are large feelers instead. These are from a world with an atmosphere so thick that it's technically classified as a gas giant. However, it's almost entirely water vapor, so think of these more along the line of sky lobster. "Why just the tails?" Horace asks. "Because the front looks like something out of a horror video," Dr. Skitterway says, coming in with a floating tray of other bits of food of all sorts. "We're missing something. Someone." Magrika notes as she flitters around the table. "Oh, calm down, will you?" Lady Eilure states, and Emmanuel sighs. "I'll go fetch Xavier." Emmanuel states with a sigh, "No, I think I should go. She's not in her wisest and most accepting mood. Perhaps hearing things from a fellow light Erumenta will make her receive the news better," the august Lady Clarity states. "Are you sure?" Emmanuel asks, and she nods. "We begin in 20 minutes, Dr. Skitterway states, and Lady Clarity nods. "Of course, this shouldn't take long," she says as she rises and leaves the room. Dr. Skitterway waits until after she's well and truly gone before turning to Emmanuel. "So, she's convinced she needs to be your bodyguard and servant? By besting her in battle and sparing her life, it apparently belongs to me now. Couple that with my conquest of Miru, and she's basically my sworn sword, despite the fact she prefers a mace," Emmanuel explains. "Oh, it's a whole thing in Miru. One of their first warrior orders valued their word and honor and all that sort of stuff so much that they became regarded as completely incorruptible and reliable. Having one of them say you did something wrong was a guilty verdict, no judge required." Magrika explains before shrugging. "Of course that only works if they're worth the reputation. But the Knights of the August Order are brutal fast to exile, excommunicate, and basically X everything the members of their order that break their word or even come close to it. They also have rules for everything. Which big guy here stepped into the middle of before he knew what he was doing? I beat her in a fight, but gave her a chance to surrender. She took it," Emmanuel explains. "Perhaps I can explain better?" Lady Eilure asks. "She took the surrender, yes, meaning that as it was your mercy that granted her life came from you, and therefore it, and by extension her, were bound to you. As a warrior she was disgraced, until you conquered Miru and rooted out deep and old corruption, and then you went on to quell chaos in other lands. You stripped her of her honor in fair battle, then gave it back to her 100-fold with what you've done after, perhaps even 1,000-fold after your ascension. She went from being at risk of her name being struck from the scrolls for her using tactics that verged on dishonorable and losing against you anyways, to being perhaps one of the most well-regarded knights of the order. There is precisely zero shame in losing to someone regarded by the immortal serpent empress as an equal. There is no dishonor in being bested by someone that treats the greatest beasts of the land as mere food and entire armies as mere distractions. She was already on fair footing when it became known you faced the dark mirror and won. What you did after? She's becoming the envy of the order." Weird honor system, but understandable, Horace states before grinning. Still, the question is, will Xavier have more light Erumenta siblings on the way though? Do you think she's going to go that far? "I do not know, but if you think I'm going to pressure her into anything like that, then you clearly need to get the bolts in your neck adjusted, you damn monster." Emmanuel returns in a firm but not unfriendly tone. "That wasn't what I was suggesting. I was thinking maybe bodyguard crush? She's basically like a combination between bodyguard and butler, right? Or she would if you didn't move too damn fast and hit too damn hard for her to be able to do anything before it's almost entirely over," Horace offers. If she shows interest, we'll take it from there. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and mistake her fulfilling what she sees as her duties or some kind of professional admiration or anything of the sort as attraction. That's just asking to make things more complicated than they need to be, Emmanuel states. Well, she has my blessing already. Of course, that's partially because I want to see if there's going to be the very, very rare genetic throwback into long-lost generations. The odds are quite long, but they're roughly the same as a sperm donation producing a male child in a species that the mother never personally encountered before, Dr. Skitterway states, which for those not in the know was roughly 1 in 35,000. It also increases by a factor of 10 for each generation backwards that the person is a throwback to. I have a Lopin great-grandfather, so the odds of any child of mine being a Lopin without a Lopin mother being involved is 1 in 35 million. Wait, I think I saw one of those, brown-furred dog woman? Really big? Lopin are canine descended, yes. They are one of several races that can operate in a bipedal manner but are swifter and more effective on all fours, Dr. Skitterway says. It's actually an interesting evolutionary angle that often involves having more mass in the rear half of the body to accommodate the shifting balance or a strong tail used as a brace to assist, not to mention the reinforcement required around the forelimbs that can and often do impede some degree of physical. Holy crap, that's in the blood, isn't it? Magrika asks in sudden concern. Considering it started with me, I don't think so. It's a learned habit. He was explaining a lot of things before he remembered being your boy, Magrika notes. Yes, well, resurrection isn't a well-studied science at this point. How prone he would be to certain habits he had before his retention of self can be explained in any number of ways, most simply by being the person who he had the memories of at the time having a similar habit, Dr. Skitterway says before reaching out and swatting the questing hand of Horace as he clearly wants to start early. You're not my son, boy, but I can still discipline you. Ma'am, understood, ma'am, Horace states, pulling back his unharmed hand. And we're back. I trust we are not late, Lady Clarity asks as she enters with Zavaya. You easily have another 5 minutes, Clarity. Thank you for bringing her, Dr. Skitterway states. Thank you both for being here, although I must ask as to exactly why you weren't here already, Zavaya, Emmanuel states, and she gives him a defiant look. Use your words, young lady. Do you think this is funny? She asks. I think we're at dinner. Now, there can be some comedy with Hawaiian wind scuttlers, but not when they're prepared like this, Emmanuel states as he gestures towards the alien lobster tails. You generally need the rather hideous and inedible face and hooks to have a good joke ready. That one needs a story, Horace states. Not much of one. I saw it in a prank video a long time ago, and it stuck with me, Emmanuel states. Oh, okay. Horace dismisses it with ease. Zavaya takes a deep breath, inhaling and then exhaling to calm herself. I know you're not threatened by the women loyal to me. I get it. I do. I didn't believe the video I was shown of what you did at first, but too many people have spoken matching stories for it to be a real lie. So I do understand that you are ridiculously potent in battle and it is morality alone keeping me alive. But do you have to be so outright dismissive? You're not even acknowledging my supporters as a threat, Zavaya asks, and Magrika cackles. Practiced? That didn't you. Not used to speaking clearly or with humility, are ya? Calm down, Magrika. She has a point. Or at least has a question. Yes, I do have to be dismissive because acknowledging them as a threat will embolden them. They're not a threat to me, but they can hurt themselves and others, including you. Now, I know you don't like this, but there's a chance here for you that you didn't have before, such as, do you even want the throne? You have centuries, even millennia to do what you want now, but if you take up a responsibility like a throne, Your options will shrink instead of expand now. If you take the throne of Miru, then you are stuck with Miru. If you don't, you can go anywhere. Do anything. Leadership is a burden, not a privilege. A duty, not a party. Oh, goddess, can we get to the food already? Yes, little girl wants the throne. She's not thinking about it and will get herself stabbed in the back due to bad choices. Can we move on? Magrika asks. I am willing to banish people from the table if they can't be polite. Dr. Skitterway threatens. Now, as you've just arrived, Zavaya, we are eating Hawatan wind scuttlers. These creatures are of a similar evolution to river shrimps, or as they're known here, skitterfish. These ones evolved on a world made almost entirely of very thick gas, too thick for you or I to breathe, so thick that creatures that would normally only swim can actually fly. Then isn't it just water? No, it's still a vapor, if only barely. The inner world spins much too fast and is so warm that it constantly boils all the vapor that condenses back into water and sends it back up. The whole world is... The lecture is cut off when there's a gurgling rumble, first from Horace and then from Emmanuel. That can wait. Time to eat, Dr. Skitterway says, and everyone sits down at the table. So these are those river bugs, but from Anther World? Zavaya asks, even as Emmanuel and Horace load up the plates around them first before piling their own plates high. Bigger men need bigger meals after all. Somewhat, there are many kinds of life in existence, but there are only so many successful ones. Certain shapes that just work better than others, so they tend to thrive while the others die out. Dr. Skitterway explains before she grabs a pair of bowls that she holds out towards Horace and Emmanuel. Now, I understand that with the more robust digestion you boys have, that there's more expected out of a meal. These should add not only plenty of flavor, but nutrition as well. Ah, thank you, Mother, Emmanuel says excitedly. Just make sure you eat cleanly. Your fur is longer now, so you don't want to get that sauce all over your lovely white fur, she says, and there's a slight giggle from Zavaya. Yeah, little brother, make sure you eat good and slow and savor your mommies. Horace begins and pauses as Dr. Skitterway holds out the serving tongs towards him like a weapon. He holds up his hands in surrender, and there's further laughter from Zavaya. After dinner was a bit of a wait before the recovery efforts began. It was sunset at the Aridus Valley and midday in that part of the world. The camera feed from the miniature submarines carrying the supplies and equipment were moving steadily and acting as engines for the Angla researchers hanging onto the sides. The deep-water adapted women quickly anchor the miniature sub to the side of the gigantic chunk of metal. It's covered in a thin layer of sediments that are falling off the top of the ship in a constant small stream like a waterfall of sand and silt. There are numerous scans presented, and back at the base, a central projector starts showing more and more of the massive ship. The massive broken ship. Whatever hit the nest nearly split in two, and the butterflied spaceship was stuck in the trench lengthwise. There's sudden excitement as familiar axiom patterns are picked up by the more sensitive equipment. Familiar and artificial patterns. Patterns used in technology. That is a stasis chamber, Emmanuel states as the visual feed shows a submerged room with a large casket glowing inside. There are rows of them, but one glows brighter than the others. Hold on a moment. He reaches down low and gets next to one of the mission control women. Tell them to check the unpowered caskets as well. They may just be in emergency or low power mode and still functional. The woman relays his suggestion, and as the rest of the salvage team approaches the glowing casket, one of them breaks off and sweeps aside some silt and dirt. She then opens a panel and finds a glowing marking inside. "It's still alive!" the Angla exclaims in shock. She then quickly goes up to the view screen and wipes it off before flinching backwards in the water. "It's a person! It's a man!" Emmanuel states.